One of the biggest traumas of my life growing up was that nothing worked. You would go to the bank, the systems wouldn't work, and my idea was, hey, why don't we invent an internet currency?
You built an internet currency called Karma.
It's cheap to acquire initially, and it has proof of work minting in it. So one of the key components in Bitcoin was also in Karma about 6 years before Bitcoin came along.
What did Satoshi Nakamoto do better than you when he invented Bitcoin?
He did two major things much better than I did. Number one, technically.
Emin, the founder of Avalanche,
the team behind Avalanche, a fast, scalable blockchain.
A former Cornell professor, he's driving decentralized finance forward.
What needs to happen for crypto to go fully mainstream?
I think we have the right architecture for being able to absorb the growth. What we don't have is the front end. Wallets are very difficult to use. We built this wallet called Core that is designed to address this difficulty.
What does broader crypto use look like?
Everything of value is on a blockchain, and services operate with a chain.
Can you give me some examples?
We open up the top game on PlayStation, and all of the assets on that game are on a chain. If you want to borrow some money from the bank, you don't go to a bank, you just do it on chain.
What's the most important thing to you in life?
It is being able to change the world. It's showing the world how it can be much, much better. And I want to prove to all of the crypto naysayers that crypto is the solution to a lot of the problems that they perceive with big tech.
You call Avalanche the home of layer ones.
Yes, it is.
What did you do differently when you launched Avalanche that helped you become one of the biggest projects by market cap, worth more than $60 billion in 2021?
Yeah, so what did we do right?
Hi everyone, this is the little bit that I know none of you like that can help us make a huge difference for this show, and we want to take it next. 71% of the people who regularly watch When Shift Happens have not subscribed. And so all I'd ask you, if you want to make a huge difference, is the following. If you've seen this show before and you like it, help me, help my team, hit the subscribe button, and we'll continue to build this show for you. Thank you.
It looks good, life is good, you look good.
Sorry.
You look tanned.
I was in Miami. I just got back from Miami.
Nice, how long for?
5 days.
You just stand in 5 days.
I was in Florida before.
Okay, fair enough.
My third trip to Miami in the last couple months.
I can see the red.
Yeah,
red
my
dot
nose
just
came
on
off. I know. I got too much sun.
What a tough problem to have.
Yeah. It's
It's
okay. Of all the problems to deal with, this is the least of our worries. This is World War III that almost broke out.
Oh
so,
my God!
Compared to that,
yeah. What's one of the bad problems that you have to deal with recently?
Trying to figure out where the space is going. It's like our constant biggest problem, and how to get the next billion people into crypto. That's our big problem. As a space, as anyone active in the space.
Emin?
Yes.
What is your mission?
What's the mission? To take crypto to everybody. So to make it the primary rail by which every value transfer happens, by which every asset is stored, sent, kept, sold. And the primary means by which we build services that are not controlled by any single entity. So it is in many ways a king breaker, a technology that makes sure that tech titans don't get too strong, that we democratize the systems that we use.
Why is that so important?
Because without it, we get concentration of power in just a few hands, and that holds a lot of danger for everyone.
Who are you?
Who am I? It's a good question. I think of myself as a graduate student at all times, but really I think the thing that defines me is that I was a professor at Cornell University for about 19 years. I was a professor of computer science. I'm a lifelong student of computer science. I'm a geek who loves to build stuff. I'm a geek who loves to build large-scale distributed systems that organize themselves, systems that provide a service without anyone in charge, systems that operate without a centralized owner. So this is very different, obviously, from the systems that most people build, right? They usually build client-server systems. When you go to use Facebook, you're using Zuckerberg servers. When you go to use Google, you're using Google servers. And so I like to build systems where you're using anyone's servers to get a service, and there is no single entity in charge. Instead, the service is provided by some kind of a computer program whose behavior we all understand and agree to.
You say I'm someone who loves to build stuff. That's not really the image that people have from someone who is a professor at university, which is a very theoretical thing.
That's true. Most people think of professors as sort of like, disconnected from reality, people who are sort of far away, far apart from the day-to-day concerns, people who think about theoretical foundations and not so much the practical implementations. But that image is not accurate. So it's true that a lot of academia is theoretical, but there are also wholesale departments, wholesale areas where people do focus on how to build actual things that work. So for example, Cornell Computer Science has a lot of theoreticians, but I was on the practical side of things. I always thought of theoreticians as people with, so pointy wizard hats or mathematicians hats. And I always wore a hard hat. I always built stuff. Every single one of my papers pretty much has a hardcore implementation in it. I really build the systems. I would like to fully build the systems to understand the nuances. So I always built stuff.
What made you not go into business and go into a PhD program?
That was easy. So I was graduating from Princeton University. I got into Princeton with a very nice scholarship. I grew up in Turkey. I got a scholarship to Princeton. I did my undergraduate studies there. Loved computer science, loved to build complex systems, large programs, and so on. And I wanted to learn more. And I want to, so I thought, well, okay, now that I finished my undergrad, I should go get a master's degree. But master's degrees are expensive. So I was like, well, why don't I enroll in a PhD program? Because if you're a PhD student, they pay you to study. And you can leave after a year or two with your master's, which was my original plan. And then I got into the PhD program, and I got sucked into how fun that life is of figuring out answers to questions that nobody knew the answers to. So that's what research is all about. And I love that life, and that's sort of what got me into the PhD studies. I didn't leave with a master's. I got my PhD. Then I went on to become an academic because I really like that life of problem solving.
You said you're from Turkey.
Mm-hmm.
You grew up there.
I did, in Istanbul.
Beautiful city, the city of the cats.
City of cats. That's right. It was a gorgeous city, especially when I was growing up with fewer people in it. It was awesome.
There's a common pattern across most of the very successful people I interview on this podcast. They have a childhood trauma or something that happened in their life that gave them a chip on the shoulder. What happened in your life that may explain your hunger for success and your fire in the belly?
There's a lot. We're going into therapy now. So there are a lot of things that happen to any given one of us. But I think one of the biggest traumas of my life growing up in Turkey back then was the fact that nothing worked. Like you would go to the bank, the systems wouldn't work. They'd turn you around. You'd have to come back the next day. You'd go to the airport. Half the displays would just blue screen on you, right? And then they'd be giving out paper tickets or whatnot. Things that should take no time at all, I knew should take no time at all, were just very difficult. They just wore you down. And at a very physical level too, we lived in these houses that weren't perfect by any means. The windows would close, there'd still be a draft in the house, right? And so I remember being very, very upset at things that did not work 100%. 99.9 is good enough maybe for some people, but it just, it would just piss me off that if it didn't work, that 0.1%. And in fact, back then, most things were built to a 85%, 95% standard. So quite a lot of the time things didn't work. So that's what got me interested in things that really work, the things that reliably provide a service no matter the circumstances. And I remember, so when I was growing up, you had to take this big exam to get into schools, and if you're in the top, 110 people or so, you go to this one American school for middle school and high school. I got into this school. And I remember my first day walking up to these big doors built up to American standards. And I walked through the door and it closed behind me with a satisfying click. And I was like, yes, I am where I belong. These people know how to build things that actually work. And that got me on the path to engineering large things that work.
Quick shout out to our sponsors who make this show possible. I'd like to thank our friends at Jupiter, the most used decentralized trading platform on Solana and the largest DAO in the world. We've teamed up with Money Badgers, the lifestyle brand launched by Paradex, to give you a shot at winning an exclusive Money Badger NFT from their upcoming Genesis collection. Being in the trenches is more than a full-time job, it's a way of life. The Money Badgers was born to tell that story. Their flagship NFT collection drops in Q4 this year, and we're giving you a chance to get one. Remember, supply is limited. Use the link below to get on the waitlist. You're a Swiss-backed and regulated neobank powered by Mantle that offers Swiss IBAN accounts with fiat currencies such as the euro, the Swiss franc, the US dollar, and the Chinese yuan, as well as crypto, all in one place. To support this show, please check the sponsors link in the description down below. Thank you.
They know how to build a door that closes properly.
It's-
I mean, it sounds
it's a
so
thing.
stupid,
It
but
seems yeah, sounds simple, but you know.
it shows that we take too many things for granted, actually.
hmm
So you would go to the bank, and then they would not give you money,
Yeah,
and
they
you would
would-
have to go back the day after.
Systems down. Like I'm sure this resonates with a fair bit of your audience that lived through the dark old ages of computerization. You'd go there, they'd rely on a centralized server. Server's down. What do you do? Nothing. You just come back tomorrow.
I mean, I was in Bali a couple of weeks ago. I live in Singapore, so it's not far.
Hmm.
And it's a beautiful island. It's amazing, but nothing works. And so I would just go, we're going to the south of the island. We just say, let's go buy a bottle of water in the supermarket.
Mhm.
It took us 45 minutes
Yeah.
for a bottle of water because we go there, the system doesn't work. Then we don't have cash because we don't use cash anymore. Then the cash machine kind of works, but it doesn't work again. Then there's a huge queue. Then, okay, let's go and get some cash out. Then 45 minutes for a bottle of water.
Absolutely.
And then you're like, if a bottle of water takes 45 minutes, how do you build a business here?
Yeah,
It's
you
impossible.
You can't. Okay. And the contrast from Singapore to Bali must be.
I would say the contrast from Singapore to a lot of places. Is,
Singapore is an island where everything works. That's it's quite a culture shock.
You built an internet currency called Karma in 2022.
I did. No, in 2002.
2022, sorry.
2002.
2002,
Yeah. So 23 years ago today.
What is an internet currency?
Why do we need one? Because back then, people were really into file sharing. And, so file sharing was really big. Everybody was downloading music and other stuff. And there was a craze, because you could do with a file sharing service what big business couldn't do. You couldn't download music at the time. You had to buy a shrink-wrapped CD or DVD or whatnot. So there was something available on the internet. It was awesome. It worked through these self-organizing file-sharing networks. But there was a problem with all of these systems, as is often a problem when you have communities trying to get stuff done, which is people wanted to take things. Nobody wanted to donate things to the common good. So everybody wanted to download. Nobody wanted to upload. Uploading got your bandwidth occupied at a minimum. So there had to be some system, something to incentivize people to occasionally do good for the world, right? And so I figured, okay, what can we do? One of the things that people came up with at the time was BitTorrent, which is still around, and that's a barter-based system. And my idea was, hey, why don't we invent some kind of an internet currency? And it's cheap to acquire initially, but you can't acquire, there's a finite amount of it. And so you acquire it, and then every time you download a file, you use some of it. And at some point, you're going to run out. And if you don't want to run out, you have to be good, and you have to actually provide services to others as well. So that was the genesis of the Karma currency in 2002. It was peer-reviewed and published in 2003. And it has proof-of-work minting in it. So one of the key components that is in Bitcoin was also in Karma about 6 years before Bitcoin came along.
What did Satoshi Nakamoto do better than you in late 2008 when he invented Bitcoin?
He did a couple of things right. So he did two major things much better than I did. Number one, technically, he ended up taking the consensus side of the equation, the consensus problem, and folding it into the coin creation problem. So in Bitcoin mining, when you're creating the coin, when a miner is creating coins, he's also codifying what happened in the preceding 10 minutes. So that was something that in Karma was disjoint. I had proof of work minting, but the consensus was classical consensus. It was still done by quorums of nodes, and that wasn't as lightweight. That wasn't as open as as Bitcoin was later on. So Satoshi had an incredible insight that really changed, I think, the world for much better, technically, when he came up with that part. He also had another big idea that I completely missed. I was working in the aftermath of 9/11. I was working in the aftermath of, people being very concerned about Hawala networks, about, money flows, terrorist financing, and so on. And so I always conceived of what I was building as something that only targets the file sharing problem. But Satoshi was coming right after the 2008 crisis, and he had a much grander vision. He was like, well, let's just down with fiat. Let's come up with a new store of value, a new asset that will replace fiat. And that's the kind of big vision that as a younger person who was trying to do something much more contained, I did not have. So he nailed two fronts that in a way that I did not.
But you identify some flaws in what he did too, right?
I did. I found me and my co-author Itai Eyal, we found the biggest known flaw in Bitcoin, and we found some flaws in what Satoshi claimed about his own system.
Well, what were those flaws?
So we invented something called selfish mining, and essentially what we showed the world was some of the claims that Satoshi made about Bitcoin are incorrect. So what are those claims? For a system like Bitcoin to work, for a system like Bitcoin to be compelling, it has to have a key property called incentive compatibility. What does that mean? It means that the participants should have incentives to follow the protocol, as opposed to incentives to diverge from the protocol and do something else. If I can make more money doing something else, well, then the protocol is not compelling as it is. It's not the thing that people should do, will do, when they have, when their incentives are sort of pulling them away from what you told them to do. So everybody thought that Bitcoin was incentive compatible. Everybody thought that as long as an adversary was less than 51%, that he would not be able to benefit from diverging from the protocol. And Satoshi explicitly claimed this. People repeated this. There was even a study, an academic study by some academics that turned out to be deeply flawed, that claimed this. And so the work that we did with selfish mining was, look, there's another way to approach the Bitcoin mining protocol. You don't have to follow what Satoshi told you to do. And in fact, if you don't do it and follow this other strategy, you can make more money. So your incentives can lie elsewhere, and you can make more money doing selfish mining as opposed to regular mining. So this, of course, was anathema to Bitcoin maxis at the time, because it implies that Satoshi made a mistake. And Satoshi, of course, the Bitcoin maxis believe is this infallible person. Everything he said is wonderful, and he has made no mistakes. So when we came up with selfish mining, it ruffled a lot of feathers. I mean, it's all sorts of things started going south. It started getting death threats. There was a letter writing campaign for Cornell to fire me. I was a tenured professor at the time, so they couldn't fire me, and it was nice watching all the letters going around. It was kind of unnerving at the time, but it's okay. It was like, they can't fire me. It's okay. And there was even crowdfunded projects to prove us wrong. And all three of those projects all the leads flipped and said, after a while, they said, look, what these guys claim is exactly right. All the simulations actually confirm what they said, and selfish mining is a thing. And by that time, people had realized, hey, we weren't trying to tear down Bitcoin. We were trying to better characterize its security. And if you do characterize it better, then you can guard against selfish mining attacks. If you know what can happen, what can go south, you can watch for it and make sure that it doesn't happen in practice. So, and then ultimately what happened is people adopted us and decided, hey, these people are actually in crypto to make crypto much better. They're scientists. They provide the foundations that we need. And they started inviting me to all the crypto conferences and so on. So that's how I got into the space.
When was this story?
2013, 12, 13, around then.
What is maximalism a good thing?
Absolutely a horrible thing.
Why?
Because maximalism is religion. Maximalism is a cult for any maximal, even the Avalanche maxis. So there is nothing that's unassailable in the world. The only God that you should have is probably science, and so So the right thing to do is always to approach all claims with skepticism, to demand proof, to demand scientific proof, to validate things, etc. And if there are better ideas, if there is something that shows, hey, these beliefs are false, then you should abandon them and adopt better beliefs.
Can you take the side of maximalism? Tell me something positive about maximalism.
Sure. Maximalism allows communities to bind together very strongly, and it creates very strong communities. So that's why you see cults as long-standing things. There are 1,000-year-old cults around in the world, right? People still dress like they did hundreds of years ago, do things in the old ways, etc. So it allows groups of people to capture some set of values and some sets of behaviors that sometimes might be okay to preserve. So maximalism has that positive side, but it also has the problem that if you adopt the wrong ideas, that discredited ideas or technical beliefs that are incorrect, then you might find yourself, still trying to use a gas engine to do your farming with, when there are better or kerosene engines or whatever it is that the Amish use, right? So they're allowed to use certain things, but not electricity, right? It's just it's kind of an odd behavior. Their behavior is frozen in the 1800s. That's a strange thing to be doing.
I mean, we've seen that at various degrees, right? With Ethereum lately.
Yeah.
We've seen that with Luna, like a more extreme example of what maximalism can do to people.
Yeah.
In terms of negative consequences, basically going broke. Do you think that Bitcoin and crypto would be where we are today without a good dose of maximalism in the early days?
I think we'd be far farther. We would not have the backlash against crypto that we ended up having. I think maxis did great disservice to the crypto movement. Do I think that the store of value narrative of Bitcoin would be as strong? Probably wouldn't be as strong. I think the maxis really repeated that mantra really well, and they really sold Bitcoin to the masses as a store of value. And so yeah, Bitcoin probably wouldn't be where it is today, but crypto would be further along. There'd be less backlash against crypto.
How did you get so fascinated by the world of Bitcoin and the cryptocurrencies?
I think it all started with the karma work. I like self-organizing systems. That's clear. And then once I saw Bitcoin, I was like, hey, there's something much bigger here. There is a bigger movement. And I think the fundamental thing that attracted me is the fact that crypto is the next sort of destination in the evolution of large-scale computer systems. When I was growing up, we barely knew how to build a computer that stood alone, right? That operated by itself. And as I got older, I started seeing mainframes, etc. So, people started learning how to build bigger and bigger systems. We started getting network systems. We started having PCs at home, and you could connect these PCs to each other. But you would connect them to servers. We barely had solved how to build client-server systems, and that begat us the .com boom. And I think the next stage in the evolution of computer systems are large-scale systems where no one's in charge, where the system provides a service without necessarily a tech titan providing that service. And that democratization is in line with my values, is in line with the world that I want to build. I want people to be able to count on a service without having to trust the service provider, because the service providers have time and time again proven that they are not trustworthy.
How far are we from that world? It takes a lot of time.
I think the core tech is there. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of sort of slow evolution. It takes a conducive regulatory environment. So imagine that we had the .com boom or the .com ideas. We had the internet's foundations, but the rules were that the only thing you could put on the internet would be things that don't have any impact on anything, right? Cat pictures. Okay, the internet would then be just a place for cat pictures and cat pictures alone, and if you had to vet every user, you have to know the identity of every internet user before you serve a cat picture to anyone. You have to know who they are. So that clearly would be a terrible universe. That's literally what we went through with crypto, and the regulators were not at all happy about the disruption that crypto could cause. And they did everything to slow walk our space. So we ended up getting delayed quite a bit, but I think the foundations are there. And society at large now understands what crypto can do. They understand how easy it is to use these services. There is still a hurdle for DeFi. I think we're still 1 or 2 years away from generalized DeFi acceptance. And we're probably about 5 years away from broader crypto use, and probably 10 years away from governmental crypto use.
What does broader crypto use look like?
It essentially means, or I think the telltale signs of broader crypto use are that everything of value is on a blockchain and services operate with a chain.
Can you give me some examples?
Sure.
In 5 years,
Yeah.
we sit down here
Yeah,
in the studio with a few more gray hair, or maybe less hair.
That's changing.
What does the world look like?
That's changing, I think. The world looks like we fire up a PS5, we open up the top game on PlayStation, and there's going to be PS15 by then, right? So we open up a PS15, we look at the top game, and all of the assets on that game are on the chain. So that's beginning to happen today with efforts like Off the Grid. That game, if you've played it, is amazing. In it, every arm, every mech leg, every piece of armor, every piece of ammo is an asset, is an NFT asset in game. You can buy and sell it and trade it on the side. You can play the game and get them by killing people. It's just it's a fascinating game. And that would be the primary means. That would be in the gaming space. You go to borrow some money from or you want to borrow some money from the bank, you don't go to a bank. There would be no need, and you just do it on chain. And I can just sort of enumerate many other examples. You go to, instead of going to the DMV, you go to the chain and you do a transfer of your car when you sell your car, and it happens within seconds instead of months.
So everything that has a value to anyone that is not necessarily kind of part of the GDP today because it cannot be valued necessarily will be in 5 years. And the example is some items in a game, or basically anything. Anything. So absolutely anything and everything, whether it's the keys to your car, the title to your car, the deed to your house, the virtual assets that people create, virtual assets that companies create. And in every financial transaction, all of these things have to happen on the blockchain. That's the right way to do it. Everybody who's listening to me, who understands the tech, knows that this is the only way we build auditable, coherent systems that reconcile with each other cheaply, easily, and in the fastest manner possible.
Quick one. I want to thank our partners who help us make this show possible. Thank you, Trezor, my favorite cold wallet to store my crypto and make sure I sleep well at night. If you too want to sleep well at night and want to order a Trezor wallet, you can use my promo code WSH10 to get a 10% discount. Big thanks to Bitwise Asset Management for backing today's conversation. Bitwise is a crypto specialist asset manager with more than $15 billion in client assets across 30 plus crypto solutions, including ETFs, index funds, alpha strategies, staking, and more. However you like to invest in crypto, Bitwise has something for you. And Sui, a scalable layer 1 blockchain that's fast, secure, and affordable, built by Facebook developers, and that delivers the benefits of Web3 with the ease of Web2. Thank you.
You're the co-founder and CEO of Avalabs.
I am indeed.
The company behind the Avalanche blockchain. What is Avalanche, if you had to explain it to your mom?
Avalanche is the latest system that embodies the best technology when it comes to blockchains. It facilitates building of chains for a multitude of uses, facilitates the creation of digital assets that can be sent anywhere at any time, and allows the creation of services where no one is in charge.
You told me you launched Avalanche because crypto was full of idiots who make wrong decisions.
That's not wrong.
Can you explain?
Sure. I mean, this space is, there's so many, the space has so many sins. I think your audience knows this very well. Look, the people have been selling the crypto vision for a long time, right? And if you look at how many systems have matched up to how they got sold, it's very few systems, right? So there's always some constant sort of dangling shiny crypto object, such and such will happen, and then we're going to be able to scale Ethereum. Such and such will then happen, and then we're going to scale it. And so there's always some promises of technologies that would come maybe someday. It's kind of like waiting for Godot. Let's wait for Godot. When he comes, it's going to be so good. Life's going to be great. All of our problems are going to be solved. And Godot changes. Like every time something materializes, people realize, hey, we pinned our hopes on a set of technologies that we did not quite understand, whose drawbacks we didn't really follow. And now that the technology is real and here, we realize we were wrong. We were led to a blind alley. And Ethereum was doing this again and again and again. And I watched this happen. I watched a whole bunch of other chains bring absolutely nothing to the space. Ethereum at least tried to bring some stuff. And as a technologist, it really irked me that there was a big group of people essentially in the business of selling hopes and dreams, but not really materializing them. So I thought, hey, we know how to build stuff. We know the best of technology. We have a pragmatist side to us. We know which technologies are essentially bullshit and not quite here, and will have huge drawbacks, and which technologies will really move the needle. And so I thought, hey, let me bring this new sensibility into crypto.
Why do you think that these people were doing these things that way? Is it because, straight scams? Is it because, now we raised the money, but the actual thing is hard to do is build, right? But we don't need to build because we have the money. Is it because they tried but it failed?
It's all of those. There's a multitude of people. Some people are in it for just scams. You hear about some chain that comes out of nowhere, brings nothing to the space. You don't know why. It's supposed to be good. Or a new asset shows up. There's a guy behind it, especially if the guy's quirky, right? He's acting like he's, it's a dumb person's idea of what a genius looks like, right? So, curly hair, can't tie his shoes, right? I'm referring to SBF here, of course. Never understood what he brought to the space. I was like, it's just some rando dude. And a lot of rando dudes in the space. And so people go, hey, okay, so that's easy to identify scams. They're also sort of hopeful optimists. And they're like, hey, I don't really know much about this technology, but it sounds like it could fix some problem I have. And then they go following that path. I think a lot of people in Ethereum followed verifiable delay functions, VDFs. We're going to, for a long time, that was going to be the scalability approach for Ethereum. All of us knew in academia that was a dead end. So it was VDFs that didn't pan out for them. VRFs, verifiable random functions, were going to be key to scaling Ethereum. That didn't work out. And then accumulators were going to help, and that didn't work out. Snarks, and that didn't work out. And then ZK EVMs, and that didn't work out. So there was that shiny object phenomena that was just plaguing that community. And that's definitely not scams. Those people really genuinely thought, hey, these technologies will fix it. But it got to a caricaturized version of itself towards the end, where essentially what they were doing is looking at the cryptography journals and picking the latest, shiniest object and holding that up instead in front of their audiences, as opposed to actually getting into the weeds and solving actual scalability problems. So it was against that backdrop that we did the Avalanche work and thought, hey, we really need to show the world how this is done. It sounds like the people who make the most noise don't know how to get us to the destination.
So you launched Avalanche because crypto was full of idiots who make wrong decisions. Has this changed?
Yeah, I think it has. There are a lot of things have changed. I think the days of constantly selling dreams are over. Okay, the days of technical influencers directing huge money flows are over. The days of selfies are over, right? You take a selfie with Vitalik and you're like, hey, I'm Ethereum aligned. No, dude, you just copied some code. You're running it on your laptop. There's nothing crypto about what you're doing. It's just essentially a scam at that point. So I think those days are gone. We just went through the phase of proximity to politicians. Right, we went through the selfies with Trump era, and I think that's done as well. I think we're getting to the show me era, where people will demand to see actual proof of working systems, and selling dreams is going to be harder and harder. And so I can't wait, because that's when we shine, because we've been building quietly in the background these large systems with large partners that really change the way things work. We really pride ourselves on building things that actually work, that are actually usable, and I'm really excited about what's to come.
What did you do differently when you launched Avalanche? that helped you stand out in a sea of layer ones and helped you become one of the biggest projects by market cap, worth more than $60 billion in 2021?
Yeah, so what did we do right? We did a lot of things right. I think we brought to the space the biggest breakthrough in the most important area that limited scalability, and that was consensus protocols. So for those of you in the audience who are following sort of the technical evolution of these systems, there are only 3 different approaches to consensus. A lot of people will say, oh, we have a novel consensus mechanism. No, they don't. They're like, it's like there's a hat. A hat is a way to keep the rain out, and they're putting feathers on it. It's like, hey, mine is novel. No, dude, it's just a basic hat. You put a feather, you put 2 feathers, you put 15 feathers, whatever the hell you put, maybe you put, whatever, stringers on it. It's still a hat at the end of the day. So umbrellas are a different technology, right? So we brought the new technology into this space. There are only 3 ways of doing consensus: the Bitcoin way, the classical consensus way, which is what I was using in Karma, which is what Ethereum and Solana and others are using, and then the Avalanche way. So that was one of the main technical, and it's probably the biggest technical breakthrough in the space of consensus protocols in the last 50 years, the entire time that this area has been around. That was one. Number 2, we did our launch in a way that is absolutely the most conducive to participation. We always worked to make sure that crowds could participate in our success. We offered the same terms to everybody. We allowed everyone to get in on the ground floor and build large systems with us. Number 3 is relentless dedication by our community to essentially pushing Avalanche to wherever it will go. And that's how we were able to get cutting edge partnerships. We were able to get absolute users who came to us and said, hey, without announcing to anyone, we've been using your system because it's one of the few systems that actually work and handles the load that we have. So those are things that really helped us. It's hard to pinpoint any one thing, but in combination, they brought us to where we are.
What did you do wrong?
What did I do wrong? Of course, so many things. I think one of my greatest problems has always been the difficulty of getting the word out. I think my marketing has always been weak. And so if you look at Avalanche, and if I had to identify the thing that I'm the weakest at, that would be by far the area where I need the most help. So when you have a chain that's got nothing to it, right? There's no new technology. It's just a chain. It's running on your laptop, or it's running on your laptop and 5 of your friends' laptops, right? So then you have all the time in the world to push that thing. You have all the time to think about how you're going to market that thing, and there are many chains like this, and the people behind them, they're fantastic at marketing. That's what they do, right? That's like all day long, every day. That's what they think about, and in contrast, we are constantly pushing the boundaries of the technology. We're constantly bringing the best of tech, best of science into Avalanche. I'm running a fairly big show with hundreds of people, hundreds of devs, developing new technologies, new things on top of Avalanche. And so that didn't leave me as much time to get the word out. And I think to this day, I would say that that's the part where I'm weakest. And from my own community, that's one of the things that I need the most of to help with getting the word out.
I had Gavin Wood from Polkadot on this podcast, and he firmly believes that the best tech must win and will win. What do you think about that?
Best tech doesn't always win, doesn't have to win, but in the long term, the chain that will come out ahead will be that which can absorb the enormous growth we're going to have in this space. That I firmly believe in. And if we think about sort of the systems out there, let me characterize them, right? So you have very early systems of generation 1 chains, like Bitcoin, where you have a single asset, BTC, and a single chain. Then you have generation 2, which is Ethereum, Solana, and others, which are multi-asset, but single chain. There's a single chain, everybody must use that one chain, and but you can have multiple chains, multiple assets on that chain. So that's okay. But those things conk out. When somebody is doing an NFT release, when someone's doing an airdrop, Ethereum becomes unusable. Solana becomes unusable. Solana stops. Used to stop a couple times a month. So then the third generation, the latest generation of systems out there, and there are only a few of these, are the systems that are multi-asset, multi-chain. Avalanche is at the forefront of these. Gavin's system, Polkadot, is another one of them, and Cosmos is another one of them. So the three of us are the multi-chain systems. And the multi-chain thesis has been borne out. That is to say, our approach to scalability is the one that can absorb the growth. As new applications develop their own chains on top of us, that adds to our performance. We don't have to compete for performance. And we can absorb the growth that is to come from all sorts of industry, all sorts of governments building their own systems on the blockchain.
You call Avalanche the home of layer ones.
Yes, it is.
What does that mean? Explain simply. No
Sure.
jargon.
No jargon. Avalanche is not a single chain. It allows it allows anyone to build their own blockchain on top. It's a network of networks. So it's very different from Ethereum, very different from Solana, very different from Bitcoin and others. It's essentially a network of networks where anyone can start their own chain according to their own rules, digitize their own assets, use their assets as gas, use their assets as collateral, use their assets for staking, use it for whatever they might want to use their asset for on their own terms. This enables our users rather, to build custom application-specific chains. They can build a chain for use by Europeans according to European rules, GDPR rules, etc. They can create a chain for use by people on Wall Street, but people who are doing games, who are doing whatever else that they might want to do. And these things can then communicate with each other in a seamless fashion. We bring to the space what Ethernet brought to computer networking back in the 80s.
Can you give me an example of what Ethernet brought back into the 80s, but in the Ethernet and internet era, so people can understand better?
Sure. Yeah. So what happened back then was essentially a transformation from single mainframes, from single servers to multiple servers that interoperate with each other. It enabled campuses to connect to each other, to send messages, emails from one campus to another, and that gave us the birth of the internet. The internet got created by people connecting campuses to each other via these network connections. In a similar fashion, Avalanche allows you to create a chain, me to create a chain, and these chains to interoperate by sending messages back and forth, these chains to send assets from one chain to another whenever that makes sense, and facilitates the interoperable collection of these chains that operate together.
I had a conversation with Anatoly from Solana, Gavin Wood from Polkadot, Steven from Arbitrum, Jesse Polak from Base, a bunch of other people. Each one has a different approach to scaling.
Mm-hmm.
How does Avalanche scale? So you said before, the ones that will be at the forefront are the ones that are going to be able to scale when we hit this moment of mass adoption.
Yep. So the Avalanche approach to scaling is to allow multiple chains to coexist under the same rubric, under the same umbrella. That's very different from every single person that you mentioned in that list. So all of these people are going to try to jam-pack all users onto a single chain. Base, Solana, and everything else that you just mentioned. These are all single chains at the end of the day. And every user, in effect, competes with every other user for blockchain space on that chain. The Avalanche approach is different. When you have a use case, then you can start your own chain that operates according to its own rules, on its own terms, with its own validators, with its own resources. And that chain can interoperate and communicate with other users that have built different chains. We don't have to jam-pack them onto the same infrastructure, onto the same set of limited resources. That is the biggest difference between us and everyone else that you just mentioned.
You talked about gaming before when you talked about each asset that, or each thing that has value today will be on a blockchain, right? Avalanche is pretty focused on a bunch of things. One of them is gaming. Why do some people call Avalanche the gaming blockchain?
So some people do call it that. I never do. We work really hard to make sure that we have built a platform that's usable for anything and everything under the sky. There are many other use cases besides gaming, but a lot of games come to us because they have really stringent requirements. The gameplay has to be fantastic. The gameplay has to be super fast. It has to be seamless, and the system overall has to be reliable. Imagine you turn on your PS, whatever it is, 5 today, 15 tomorrow, and you can't connect or whatever. The performance is not good enough. Or you kill somebody, but you can't collect their resources because you lack enough coins for gas. Like that's just not a usable platform. So gaming developers have been coming to us saying, we've studied what's happening in this space. Yours and yours alone is the only system that we trust for our demanding users. And I'm really proud of our track record in this case. Off the Grid is a huge game that launched on top of us. I believe they have more than 15 million users. So in the last bull cycle of crypto, there were these chains that made a crap ton of noise. In fact, a bunch of the people that you just mentioned, you sum up all the users for quite a few of them, sum up every single one of their users, and they still wouldn't approach this one game, the number of users this one game brought to Avalanche. So when you have such a big load, when you have such high reliability requirements, speed requirements, then you know where to go. And that's Avalanche. That's what people have been doing to us.
What's the right way to do crypto gaming?
So, and this is going to sound super obvious. But it wasn't obvious a few years ago. So a few years ago, everybody thought Web3 gaming was, Axie Infinity, Ponzi-esque games. I take your coin, I sit on it, and I don't know what, you pay me or I pay you. New users pay old users, something like that. It creates just very Ponzi-like behaviors. And people thought it was all about that kind of terrible financial transactions. We had the world's simplest thesis, which was build a game that's compelling to play. Build a AAA game that's compelling to play, and put it on a blockchain infrastructure so that it has the ability for the gamers to participate in running the game, in enforcing the rules, that allows people to create third-party value-added services. And the first exemplar of this was Gunzilla's Off the Grid. I mentioned this already. It's set on an island. You're what's called a zero, like a mercenary who's got nothing to lose. You cut your arms off, you cut your legs off, you put these mechanical arms and legs, and then you jetpack onto the island, you start killing people in that game. But then more recently, we've had MapleStory come in, and MapleStory is exactly the opposite. It's many millions of users, especially in Southeast Asia, who love the game. They have tens of millions of users, and it's a very much different universe, gentler universe. But again, all the game interactions are happening on a blockchain so that they're open, auditable, and so on. In these games, often the game designers will say, hey, here's a new weapon. We're going to sell it for this much, and there will be only so many of them. And to this day, you couldn't really audit that. Do you really know how many, whatever it is, World of Warcraft, whatever Swords of Death there were? No one knows these things. But with Off the Grid, that's easily auditable. With MapleStory, that's this new version of it that's on Avalanche now. Everything is auditable and transparent.
What is MapleStory Universe? And what's the relationship with Avalanche?
They are MapleStory Universe is an independent company. It's a gaming company based in Korea, I believe, with a huge installed user base, with a huge set of people who grew up playing these games. It's really hard to explain this, but I think if your audience will immediately recognize the artistic style of the MapleStory universe. It's a lovely game with a large number of people who grew up playing it, and that game was recently, by the creators of the game, moved to a blockchain foundation as an Avalanche L1. So they're building on Avalanche, they're using Avalanche, and they built their own chain on top of us.
You see RWA, real-world assets, as a foundational layer enabling future DeFi applications.
Absolutely.
Can you explain what that means?
Sure. So what are RWAs? That's an acronym, real-world assets. We firmly believe that everything of value should be on a blockchain. That's the best way to maximize its value. Its reach should not be limited by technological means. If I want to sell something, I should be able to sell it to anybody on Earth and transfer ownership immediately to anyone. So that was the core vision. And when we were starting out, our byline was digitize all of the world's assets. So Avalanche's mission initially was essentially this. And so why is this important? Well, for example, recently Bergen County in New Jersey announced that they would be putting about $200 billion worth of land records on Avalanche. And they came to this conclusion after doing a thorough study of the technological offerings provided by different chains, and thought, Avalanche is the foundation that we're going to be building on. When you have that much, so let's actually roll back a little bit. Those of the people in your audience who ever did a title transfer will know that when you do a title transfer, it's actually a complicated process. You typically need title insurance. You need to make sure that you are not being scammed, that the person selling the title to you indeed has it, and so forth. So putting those assets on chain immediately fixes all of the uncertainty with ownership. Transfers are very, very easy to audit. Competing claims are easy to ascertain, etc. And in addition, once those assets are on chain, then they become the foundational pieces of value on which you can do decentralized finance. When you have your deed in your hand, you can simply put that up as collateral and borrow against it. And that need not be a weeks-long process with a bank, but instead it's essentially it can be an automated process that's done on chain within a few minutes.
How big is this RWA thing?
Trillions and trillions of dollars. So I think there's about 700 trillion in assets in the world. And real estate alone is about 200 trillion of it. There are many other assets that are real world, besides real estate, of course. So many hundreds of trillions worth of assets will be digitized in the next decade.
If blockchain fixes this, there's the meme, Bitcoin fixes this,
As
blockchain
it does.
fixes this.
That's right.
Why is it so slow?
The process of transformation because of regulatory lack of clarity. So I think that's not true. Why is it so slow? I think for the first decade and a half is spent solely on education, as was the case with the internet. The internet started becoming a real thing in the 80s. People were using email in the 80s. It's only in the mid-90s that people realized, hey, this thing can do more than email. This thing can do all sorts of other things. And then, then it started with the .com thing, and then we got differentiation within .com. So that first decade and a half just got absorbed. You saw no progress. Right? In the 80s, people would be like, why is the internet not exploding? Well, because not enough people understand how it works, what it could do. So there is that. The initial part is just education. The secondary part is regulatory clarity. And the third one is essentially differentiation, market forming, double-sided market formation, etc. Many of these processes are human processes that take time.
And humans are slow. Oh, sure.
They are. The technology
goes
is
fast,
here.
but people, if you look at, and this is blockchain, which is very intimidating for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But if you just look at data, right? Data is the same problem. There was all this big data thing, 10 years ago. Then AI, everything is so slow because humans are slow.
Yeah.
The technology is going fast, but the people are slow. Another big one building the layer 1 blockchain on the top of Avalanche is FIFA.
Yeah, they are, yeah.
Why did FIFA choose Avalanche and why now?
I think that's a question best directed to them. So FIFA was a fantastic partner. You know that they have requirements that are very demanding. So many of the chains that make a lot of noise out there just lack the underlying capacity to support what FIFA needs. One of the key differentiators for us, I'm going to repeat what I said earlier, but this is, that's the answer to the question. FIFA needs its own chain that operates according to its own rules, and that chain needs to be fast and reliable. And Avalanche is the only system that had those characteristics for them.
What's the end game for Avalanche?
The end game is to dominate the world and provide the rails for everybody to digitize all of the valuable things that they have.
You're saying that...
But that's not the end. That's, I think, the beginning of a new beginning.
You're saying that the Avalanche approach is multi-chain, right?
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, does the end game for Avalanche mean that everyone is in your ecosystem? Everyone is building on Avalanche? Or is there a world where we have this kind of multi-chain approach with other ecosystems that have a very different way of thinking than you?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, right? So if you fast forward a couple decades, is it going to be a single system to rule them all, or is it going to be a multitude of systems that interoperate with each other? So if you look at what's happened on the internet, right, the technologies disappear, they get commoditized, they get hidden behind layers, and but usually what happens is one technology dominates. So I do believe that it's going to be a winner-takes-all environment. That winner has got to be technologically, foundationally, and fundamentally able to absorb multiple different use cases. And so that's, I think, the end world that we're moving to. Bitcoin, I see, a couple decades from now, needing the kinds of fast transfers at the settlement layer that Avalanche offers. So I can see actual ways in which Bitcoin would be married, so to speak, with Avalanche. Bitcoin would always have its own proof of work mining foundation, but I can see approaches where you put Avalanche in front of Bitcoin, and then the Bitcoin mining comes in and sort of double stitches, right? It adds proof of work to decisions that have already been made by an Avalanche L1 that's sitting in front of Bitcoin. So I think the universe is one where we go to a fast foundation, and there's going to be a winner takes all kind of a dynamic there. And I'm really excited about how flexible Avalanche is, in that it can absorb these other chains and allow them to keep on doing their core operation on top of Avalanche and tie into Avalanche's interoperability, its low latency, and its high capacity.
I recorded recently with Lily from Solana Foundation. She says Bitcoin is the asset, Solana is the infrastructure.
Okay, I don't know what those means.
So for you, it's not Bitcoin is the asset.
Bitcoin is an asset, of course.
Avalanche is the infrastructure.
Right, Lily would say that, and it's a great soundbite. Solana is an infrastructure for one chain, and there is absolutely nothing that's compatible between Solana and Bitcoin. Whereas Avalanche is really a network of networks, and it's very different from Solana and Ethereum. So we are the technology, we are the rails for other assets to flourish on, and I'm really excited about that future.
You share with me some very difficult moments that many people are not aware of, while many only saw the man behind the blockchain valued at tens of billions of dollars. You spent 3 years managing a family health crisis with cancer affecting 2 of your family members.
Oh, right. That's right.
All while running one of the most successful companies in crypto, and all during COVID.
Yeah, that was a rough time. So I can tell you what happened. It's not something I've shared much before. But let's see, 2018 or so, my father got diagnosed with cancer, and I had a family member taking care of him, and I was going back to visit him regularly. But then that family member also got sick, also got diagnosed with cancer, and so that was actually very rough. And then COVID came along, just all about the same time, and so I spent a couple of years. Flying back and forth, trying to take care of my ailing father, and all the while, with essentially other family also suffering from a pretty awful disease, and dealing with the difficulty of traveling during COVID, and essentially trying to help people who are immunocompromised during COVID. So I would travel, I'd be in quarantine, I'd be living in Airbnbs because, you can't just go to the regular house. I'd be in quarantine in the Airbnb and spend the requisite number of days, then go to the hospital, and I've got 2 people in the same hospital at the same time sometimes. It was a very, very rough time.
What did you learn about life and the fragility of our existence? And even, a lot of money involved in your business. Yeah. But you realize that probably it's just money and it doesn't help much.
That's just money. I was never motivated by money when I got into this space. So the things I learned quite a lot about family, about values, about what is important to people, what ought to be important to people, how resilient people are, and how much strength anyone can have, anyone can muster up under duress. So. It was an eye-opening time.
What did you change in your life after that?
through that, it's a slow process of transformation. It wasn't a, it wasn't a flip or anything. But, before then, I was, I was a more sort of a standard kind of person, right? Like people would ask me like, hey, what do you do for fun? And I would have an answer to what I did for fun. And then there was this long period where I just couldn't, like, what do I do for fun? I don't know. Right? Who am I? I don't know. I cut away a large portion of how I defined myself because I just didn't have time to dedicate to it. And I suddenly found a new identity, a new set of things that really deeply matter to me. Not a new one, but I realized what set of things actually matter to me, what really makes me me. And it's not the hobbies, it's not what I do. And that really that was eye-opening. That was really eye-opening. And what's really important just comes to the surface when you're under stress. That's when everything comes to the surface.
What's the most important thing to you in life?
These days, it is being able to change the world. It's showing the world how it can be much, much better. And I want to prove to all of the crypto naysayers that crypto is not this evil thing, that the things that they hate about big tech, especially the progressives out there with whom I identify, they have this hatred. A lot of Democrats, especially, they demonstrated that they hate big tech and they hate crypto. And I want to prove to them that crypto is the solution to a lot of the problems that they perceive with big tech. The concentration of wealth that big tech creates, that they really rebel against, is something that crypto can address. The data management problems, the fact that these titans collect our information and sell it and monetize it, that is something that crypto can fix. And I want to show everybody on earth how much better our lives can be if value is stored on a chain, can be transferred, sold, etc. If we can create new economies for people, the world will be a better place. So that's something that drives me. That's something that I'm super passionate about.
We're recording this conversation from New York.
On a very hot day.
Very hot.
During a heat wave, yeah.
You live here?
I do.
Why?
Why does anyone live in New York? It's a great question. This is the area with the most regulatory scrutiny. This is the area with probably one of the highest taxation rates, right? So why would anyone choose to come here and domicile here and live day and night here? And if you look at blockchain projects, I think you can categorize them into a couple of groups, 3 groups. You've got those people who start their project and go to Silicon Valley. Those are the people who think that what they have is a tech play. They see blockchain as a tech idea, and they go to where big tech is, and they want to sidle up to big tech and tie into the tech community. These people usually base their entire existence and their entire chain around a singular, simple tech idea. They have a one-trick pony, and they want to hire the kind of talent that can sort of ride that pony as far as it will go, and they'll push their thing. These projects are never successful. They never succeed because this is not a tech play. This is a societal transformation play. You've got those people who start their project and they go to a tax haven. They go to Dubai, they go to, I don't know where else, but, they go to Austin, they go to a place with low taxation. They're going to sell their tokens and they're going to get out. Those people have no staying power. They're not ideologically driven. They're just there to sell things. And then there's the kind of people that are kind of like us. I came to New York because this is where the world's value is. This is where the assets are. The financial assets are right here. We're not afraid of the regulatory scrutiny. We welcome it. We do everything by the book, right by the book. And we take a lot of technological risk by advancing tech, by bringing science into the space. And we necessarily don't take any other risk on any other front. So I'm really proud to be here. I'm really proud to be a New Yorker. I'm really proud that we have the connections that we do to big institutions that we've built so far over the years.
You left Turkey to come here, to the US, where nothing was working, as we talked about before.
Back then, no.
And you moved to the US, which was supposed to be where freedom exists and anything is possible and everything works.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but things do work better here.
And you ended up being debanked.
I did.
Can you explain what happened?
Oh, God, yes, I can explain what happened. So let's see. This is not something that I've touched upon in public too much, but yeah, I was debanked. I was debanked by the Biden administration. I did not know this at the time. I'll tell you what happened. It's the same day that the family member got diagnosed with cancer. A second family member got diagnosed with cancer. On the eve of that day, some guy rang the door. I opened the door. Some messenger dude handed me something, made me sign it. I got it. I opened it up. And there was a nondescript little letter from my bank that I had used for maybe a decade and a half. And I had a mortgage with him, with that bank. And in fact, the bank's regional manager had called me up maybe 2 months ago and said, "You're one of our top clients. And anything you want, let me know. We'll do anything." He was being so nice to me because I had raised some funding for Ava Labs, and I was keeping all of those funds in the most secure, most conservative investment vehicle, which meant that we didn't really get much interest on that money. They collected a lot of value off of that. So I was doing things very conservatively. They loved me for it, and so it's that same bank sent me a letter that said, "You are no longer going to be our customer. Please come to the bank to collect a cashier's check for the remaining balance and go somewhere else." And I didn't understand what was happening. I was like, why? Why would I suddenly and out of the blue be losing my banking access? And so I didn't understand the system so well back then either. And so my first thought was, hey, I got placed on the OFAC list. Right? OFAC list, for those of you in the audience who might not know, is this list that the United States maintains of people who should not have access to the financial system. So I started Googling for OFAC, and it turns out there's a governmental website and you can query the OFAC list. I started querying for variants of my name, and it turns out, the OFAC list is just like a bunch of names like, I don't know, Abu al-Bakir, al-this, al-that. It's just ISIS. Okay, so it's like a bunch of ISIS operatives. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, what the hell could have happened? I'm a respectable professor at an Ivy League institution, one of the top few in the world. And how would I end up on this list? Did I end up on this list? I don't see my name on the list, but maybe this is not the most current version. Maybe there's a different version that the bank is going to. Anyway, I was losing my mind. I didn't get an answer. I called the bank. The bank is like, "We don't know why you're being debanked. It's happening at a very high level." And so, long story short, today we know what happened. Behind the scenes, the Biden administration decided to enact a policy of harassment for crypto. They didn't like crypto. And instead of being mensch about it, instead of coming up and saying, "Hey, we don't like this, change it. Don't do these things, do these things instead." Instead of setting guidelines, they decided to harass people in this area, and they decided to put pressure on the banks to push crypto people out. So this was really, really terrible. The amount of stress that these guys created is something that I will never forgive them for. Like, absolutely, the worst days of my life were those days, and I know exactly who was involved, and I cannot wait to primary those individuals. I cannot wait to essentially the best revenge is going to be to watch them use Avalanche as they buy cars, sell cars, buy property, sell property, buy stocks, and so on.
Why would they do that?
Why would they do what?
Debank crypto people.
It's a bunch of things. I think surely it came out that some of these people were getting funding from American Banking Association.
So basically you have the loop, right? Because the bank is saying we don't know.
Yeah.
And basically we cut you out or we cut you off, but we are actually the ones who are kind of lobbying.
Yeah, that was happening. There's also hatred of tech and hatred of crypto, which are two separate things, by the way, and I alluded to this before. Crypto is a solution to the problems that people perceive with tech, but somehow it got lumped together. And just lack of understanding and a whole bunch of other things. I'm not going to say that all crypto is good. Like, that is not the case. There are a lot of scams in crypto, a lot. But throwing the baby out with the bathwater is the worst thing you could be doing. And then these blanket statements about, whatever, all of crypto is this, that, and the other. That's just absolutely horrible, and usually comes from this Luddite camp in certain circles, in democratic circles. They just want to go back to a simpler time, and that, and they just don't understand the value that technology brings to them.
What needs to happen for crypto to go fully mainstream?
There are a couple of things. So at the moment, I think we have the right architecture for being able to absorb the growth. What we don't have is the front end. Your interface, my interface to services is absolutely abysmal and fraught with difficulty. Using DeFi is very, very tough. So one of the things that we're doing on Avalanche that I'm really excited about are chains powered by AI. So instead of chains where the chain has a virtual machine in it, you interact with the chain by issuing instructions, written opcodes and so forth, like essentially writing Excel programs. Instead of that, we are building a chain where you interact with the chain by specifying something in your natural language. You say it in French, you say it in Tagalog, you say it in Mandarin, whatever your natural language might be, you dictate it to the chain, and the chain embodies in it multiple AI agents that interpret your intent based on what you said and carry it out if there's a clear intent that they can discern. So I'm really excited about this because it cuts away a lot of the difficulty of smart contract programming. And wallets have to change. Wallets are very difficult to use. The way we interact with services by going from one website to another, that has to change. There's a lot that has to change, and we're at the forefront of it. We built this wallet called Core that is designed to address this difficulty. It's improving every day, and I'm really excited about where Core will take us. How it will allow regular people to use chain services.
What's your biggest prediction for the next 12 months?
Next 12 months are going to see a complete reversal, I hope, of Trump's policies. I think there are a bunch of things that he did initially to get people to the table, to try to strike deals with various adversaries. And the normalization from that should happen in the next several months. As we normalize and go back to a fully functioning global economy, it's going to be time again for people to realize, hey, blockchain brings a lot of good. Next 12 months, the new regulations related to both stablecoins and the market structure bill are going to allow people to say, hey, I now understand the foundations. I can build my services on the blockchain and I can digitize my assets. So those will make a huge dent. The days of Vitalik selfies are over. That's good to have. The days of Trump selfies will come to an end in about 12 months, in about a year or so. And it's going to be a do or die. Show us how you can actually function. No more promises, no more dangling technological solutions to this and that. Just show us what you've built.
Show us what you built. Thank you so much, Emin, for this great conversation.
Thank you for having me. This was great fun.
As you probably know by now, I host some of the biggest names in Bitcoin and crypto on my podcast. But a lot of the best stuff never makes it on air. The Shift newsletter is where I share that raw behind-the-scene alpha, the insights, stories, and lessons straight from my guests that you won't hear anywhere else. If you want the real inside take on Bitcoin and crypto, join my newsletter, The Shift, in the description down below.